So this is the 130 with, unsurprisingly, 130 horsepower, mated to an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now this combination has always been very... How do I switch you off? Stop route guidance. Citroens. It'll probably come as an enormous surprise to you, but I'm an enormous fan. So much so, I've owned 2 of them. 2 CVs, DSs, GSs, CXs, XMs and C6s. I love them all. But even I will admit Citroen haven't always got it right. Take the Zara of 1997 for example. It couldn't have been more bland if it tried. Luckily, Citroen was back to the good old days with the Zara's replacement. The C4 of 2004 was genuinely wacky, especially the 3-door coupe that looked like a Ford Anglia. But then Citroen replaced that with another C4 that had as much personality as a potato. In 2014, the C4 Cactus arrived. With its chocolate bar-like air bumps and a glove box that resembled a Victorian Globetrotter's suitcase, it remains one of my favourite modern Citroens. Now there's a new C4 and, judging by Citroen's history of hits and misses with its family hatchback, Citroen is bound to have dropped the ball once again. Firstly, an admission. The B-roll that you'll see is from France. I'm just outside of Coventry, where PSA Group is based. And no, I'm not in France. The B-roll is purely used so you can see what this car looks like on the road. Now, normally, if it weren't 2020 and the whole world wasn't suffering with coronavirus, there would be a European launch. Of course, that hasn't been able to happen this year, so these left-hand drive pre-production French cars have been brought over to the UK, and this is what I'm driving here. Now, it's a 130, which means it's got, unsurprisingly, 130 horsepower. It's mated to an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and this is a combination that's been used in various Peugeots and Citroens over the past few years, and it's always worked very, very well, actually. But in this C4, I know this is a pre-production car, so you expect it to be a little bit rough around the edges, but I'm surprised at how smooth this engine and gearbox is. It feels as though the brand has put some work into it. It just feels more refined than usual. And another thing that feels very refined is the whole interior ambience of this car, but also the way it goes down the road. Now, a lot of Citroens, a lot of new Citroens are part of this advanced comfort program. It's a combination of comfortable seats and suspension that uses hydraulic cushions. Now, I won't bore you with it, but it's got a different kind of damper on it. It just cushions the impact when you hit a pothole. It's not quite as wafty as Citroens of the 1950s, but it's an awful lot more comfortable than standard suspension used on other cars from other manufacturers. Yeah, this car really does go down the road very, very nicely. A really nicely cushioned ride. The engine is really quite quiet, actually, when it's unstrained. I mean, I'm just coming to a junction here, and you'll be able to hear that when you do put your foot on the throttle, it can sound just a little bit strained, but I personally quite like the thrum of a 3-cylinder engine. There, can you hear that? There we are. Now, the most recent Citroen that I've driven with this advanced comfort suspension and seating is the Citroen C5 Aircross, and that was a very comfortable car to drive. It wasn't much fun to drive though. The steering was very dead. It didn't feel that accurate. In this C4, it's not, I'm not going to say that it drives like a Ford Focus, because it really doesn't. But the steering is very direct. I mean, you know, it moves within centimetres from the off-centre, which is nice. There's not a huge amount of feel, but it's an electronic steering system these days. I mean, what do you expect? But what you do notice, you won't be able to see that, is how much the body rolls, how much the body moves around. Again, this car is set up to be nice and comfortable, and I personally don't mind a nice, soft, comfortable ride. I mean, you know, if I want a car that handles fantastically well, I probably wouldn't be buying a Citroen C4. The types of people who can be buying these cars don't want a car that can go around the Nürburgring and do a sub 7-minute lap time. They want to have a nice, comfortable, stress-free commute, taking the kids to school, loading this car up with shopping. They want it to be stress-free, and this car delivers that. What's also nice is this interior. Now, it's a big step up from the old C4 Cactus, particularly in material quality. Everything feels really nice. Some really nice materials used in here. Some of the quirky design has gone. There are some nice little design touches in here though. The gear lever, for example, this cubby with its patterned rubberized texture to it, some nice texture on the dashboard as well. And there's a really nice cool thing down here, which is you've got the glove box as you'd expect, but above it there's like a little tray that comes out. Here we've got an iPad, and there's also an iPad holder above it. We've also got a head-up display as well, really nice and crisp. So speaking about crispness, the infotainment screen, now it's the same software and system used in various Citroens and Peugeots over the past few years, but the screen itself in this car, crisp, really clear. There's also a home button, which is quite nice, and thank the good Lord, there are proper heating and ventilation controls. You don't have to, you can if you want to, but you don't have to go into the touchscreen to control the temperature. There are some nice knobs and buttons down here. Following on from the C4 Cactus, Citroen has gone for a raised ride height look that has a touch of coupe SUV about it, and it really makes it stand out from the Ford Focus, the Vauxhall Astra and the VW Golf. This time around there are petrols, diesels and even a pure electric version. The cheapest petrol starts at 21 grand, while the electric kicks in at 29. On looks and pricing, this is shaping up to be a pretty good Citroen. The Spec is pretty good too. All C4s get LED headlights, that 10-inch touchscreen, rear parking sensors and dual-zone climate control. Space is good in the back and boot space is on par with a Golf. So there it is then. I'll be hoping to have a longer drive soon and to get behind the wheel of the electric C4 as well. In the meantime though, let me know what you think to it in the comments below.